What's up guys, my name is Ivan Valdovinos, and on this channel I provide tips, tricks, advice, and strategies for your graduate school applications. So if you are new here, consider subscribing. In today's video, I am going to share with you the writing sample that I submitted to the PhD program that I currently attend, which is the University of California, San Diego's Education Studies PhD program. And this program also came with full funding. So I'm going to share with you the writing sample, and I'm going to walk you through some of the key aspects of my writing sample that I think got me into this PhD program. So a writing sample is a piece of writing, obviously, that showcases to the committee your strengths in writing. It shows your critical thinking skills, it shows your innovation skills, it shows how you are contributing to the field. So you want to select a writing sample that is somewhat related to what you want to potentially research when you get into the PhD program. The topic of the writing sample should also be related to the program. So if you are applying for, let's say, education and your focus is higher education, make sure that your writing sample somewhat fits that topic. If you're applying for, let's say, the sciences and you want to study biological sciences, make sure that the writing sample fits biological science field. And the reason why is because you want to showcase not only your critical thinking skills, you also want to showcase your innovation skills, and then you also want to showcase how you're contributing to the field. So make sure that you select the right writing sample for your PhD programs. Something you should not do is write something new specifically for the program. So the writing sample should be an existing piece of writing that you either submitted for a grade or publication. It should not be a brand new piece of work that you are writing specifically for this application. The length of the writing sample should be between 10 pages to 30 pages. If you submit something longer, they're most likely not going to read beyond 30 pages. They might not even read a full 30-page document, they just might skim through it and read the pieces that sound more interesting to them. So some of the writing samples that you can submit could be an undergraduate course final where you got a good grade, preferably an A. You can also submit an honors thesis. If you did a master's program before you started the PhD program, you can submit a master's thesis or a master's level work. You could also submit a lab report. You can submit a creative piece if you are doing a creative PhD program. And obviously, if you submitted something for publication and it got published, you can definitely submit that. Try to stay away from pieces of writing that are multiple authors. Try to be the sole author on the piece because they're going to assess you based on your writing skills, not the writing skills of others. Alright, so the piece that I chose to submit for my writing sample was one of my master's midterms, which was for the family engagement course that I took at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. The reason why I selected this piece of work was because I was intending to do family engagement work at the PhD level, specifically for my dissertation, which I wrote about in my statement of purpose. So I wanted to complement my statement of purpose and back it up with the piece of work that relates to what I potentially want to dig more deep into when I was at the PhD level. So the title of this document is An Action Plan for Building Partnerships with Latino Fathers in Secondary Education, midterm paper. I'm not going to go through the full document. I'm just going to pick and choose different parts of it. That way you're able to see what a good writing sample could look like. So this piece of writing, I wanted it to be like a newsletter or like a newsletter to the to educators at a middle school. So as you can tell, I have the logo here, I have a memorandum, so it was a memo, and I obviously directed it to a certain person, date, etc. So the first part of the writing sample was an overview. So let me read a little bit about it. As you might already know, one of our school goals is to build strong working relationships with our students, families, and communities. The majority of the students and families we serve come from seasonal migrant fieldworker backgrounds and identify as Latino, Latina. We have already made an effort to achieve our family engagement goals by providing various opportunities for families to connect with their school and their children's education. We are in the midst of concluding our Latino Family Literacy Project, where parents learned how to read with their children. In addition, they learned how to establish a family reading program in order to continue to build literacy skills. In our recent evaluation of our family engagement efforts, we noticed from conversations with our middle school staff that Latina mothers were more involved and visible at our school events than Latino fathers and father figures. School staff reported that almost all Latino parents who participated in this year's school student-teacher conferences were mothers. Additionally, our Latino Family Literacy Project coordinator witnessed a similar trend, noting that all participants were mothers. As a result of the mother involvement at our school, our children have improved both academically and behaviorally. However, we cannot forget about our children's fathers and father figures and their importance in our children's educations. So as you can tell in my introductory paragraphs of this memo, I stated the thesis or the problem. So the problem is that at this makeup school, this was a makeup school, this didn't really happen. It was just for this project here, this paper. But in this paper, I stated a problem. So the problem was that more Latina mothers were visible at the middle school than fathers. And so the next part of the memo is for me to discuss the research behind why it's important for Latino fathers to be involved. So let's read the next couple of paragraphs here. A study conducted by the National PTA and the National Center for Fathering found that father involvement was critical for their children's school performance, behavior, and attitudes towards school. The research on father involvement and education shows the importance of engaging fathers and father figures in our schools and communities. In order for our school to better include Latino fathers and father figures, it is going to take a collective effort from our school staff and administrators. We are asking to partner with you so that we can improve our engagement with Latino fathers and father figures. The implementation of this program will shift the culture of how we engage with Latino fathers and father figures. It is important that you understand the mission and details of our program. Outlined in this proposal are specific goals for our program, established family frameworks we are drawing from, a brief overview of the research that helps us to formulate this proposed program, and a description of the strategies and programs we hope to implement. So as you can tell, the introduction part of this memo was really focused on Latino father and father figure involvement. So it stated the problem, but it also outlined what the whole memo was going to be about. So at the end, I said that I'm going to talk about the program that I plan to implement, frameworks that work with family engagement programs, and then a brief overview of research. So in terms of writing sample, I'm already hitting on a bunch of things. I'm stating a problem which you have to do when you're conducting research. I'm also talking about family engagement frameworks, which you have to also provide when you are conducting a research project, such as a dissertation. I'm also talking about how I'm going to formulate this program, so the implications of this research, which you have to do again for your dissertation. So I'm showing the committee here how I know how to conduct research and how I can implement programs and how I can read and analyze current literature and add to that literature, have my voice be part of the conversation. So this is what you have to do when you are selecting your writing sample. Let's go ahead and read a little bit more. So program goals: to provide positive male role models for students, demonstrating by the presence that education is important. To develop awareness in our fathers that they make a positive impact on the students' academic performance, self-esteem, and social behavior. So I chose family engagement frameworks. That's the next part. Our plan draws on the following family engagement frameworks: funds of knowledge and dual capacity building. These two frameworks will support and guide the structure of our program. It will help us better understand where we are with our efforts of family engagement and where we want to be. So then I'm not going to go to the next couple of paragraphs here, but I explain more what funds of knowledge is. If you want to learn more about it, just Google it, Funds of Knowledge by Dr. Luis Small from the University of Arizona. Basically what it is this framework states that every child, every person has funds of knowledge that they bring from their house. And so we should not negate that in the classroom or in any education setting. So the goal is for us to use those funds of knowledge and build on those instead of negate them and throw them out and shun them out of our educational organizations, our educational institutions. That's pretty much what it is. But if you want to read more about it, just Google it. Then I also write about the dual capacity building framework, which actually was built by my advisor at Harvard. So my professor that taught this class, she's the one that created this framework. So I used it because that's what we learned in the course. So I talked a little bit about it, and there's a bunch of different things that surround this dual capacity building framework, which you can also Google. She has a lot of videos on this as well as the framework, which you can pull for free on Google as a PDF. So the next part of my writing sample was for me to discuss the research part of why it's important for Latino fathers to be involved. So let's go ahead and read a little bit about this. Our program and its goals are shaped by the research that the coordinator of the Migrant Education Program did concerning the efforts of father involvement in the education of their children. In order to better understand the importance of Hispanic Latino father involvement in their children's educations, we need to understand who the Hispanic Latino father is and how he is portrayed, and his views of parental involvement. The research we have compiled will help us understand how we can inform our practice in order to better serve Latino fathers and father figures at our school and community. So the first section, defining father and father figures. The definition of father in our context refers to any male role model, including biological fathers, stepfathers, grandfathers, uncles, older brothers, family friends, or any other significant men in our children's lives. It is important for us to have a broad definition of what father entails, because we want to be inviting as possible so that we could reach as many of the men in our children's families and communities who can make an impact. Then I discuss who the Hispanic Latino father is. So traditional views. Studies have portrayed Hispanic Latino fathers in the traditional sense. Valdovinos, Palacios, and Chase Lansdale, in their study on the relationship between Latino father immigrant status and their involvement with their 12-month-old infants, said that Latino immigrants are typically thought to originate from patriarchal societies, where traditional gender divisions of household labor are clearly defined. Therefore, we expect that immigrant fathers with more traditional attitudes will be associated with lower levels of involvement in their children's lives. Traditionally, Hispanic Latino fathers were described as cold, distant, and authoritarian. Sriracho and Spodek, in their study on the myths that create methodological and conceptual problems in conducting research studies to characterize Hispanic Latino fathers, found that the traditional father was viewed as an authoritarian, patriarchal body, with the woman depicted as quiet, submissive, and subservient in the home. As this research shows, Latino fathers are portrayed in traditional roles where they are not viewed as being capable of being involved in the children's educations due to cultural assumptions. Then I speak about machismo, which I'm not going to read again because it's a lengthy paragraph here. Then I talk about Hispanic Latino father parental involvement and the literature behind that. Finally, I talk about the proposed program and implementation strategies. So based on the posed problem, based on the literature, here's how I would craft my Latino father and father figure involvement program at this middle school. So I'm gonna skip and just kind of do and read a few of the programs here. So reaching out. During the first week of the new school year, our school will send out a letter, which will be available online both in English and Spanish, to all families outlining our goals for the upcoming school year, and to invite all fathers and father figures to participate in our series of launch events, such as Pan con Papi, Bread with Daddy, where individuals can sign up to volunteer at their child's school. Volunteer opportunities can include monitoring school entrance, assisting with unloading and loading of school buses and cars, monitoring the lunchroom, play with students at recess, helping in the classroom, etc. Our goal is for our fathers to engage in at least one activity every school year. The National PTA study on male involvement revealed that fathers preferred volunteer opportunities tailored for fathers, such as hands-on projects. With this said, our program is subject to change based on the feedback we receive during home visits, conversations at lunch events, and surveys. We want to make sure that fathers and father figures are part of the planning process. Then, let me see. What else here? All right, so another one. So father networks. Our long-term goal for our program is to build a network of Latino fathers so that they can support all children throughout the secondary school years. We hope that our fathers learn from each other and eventually assume leadership roles at the school and district level. We want Latino fathers and father figures to be advocates and decision makers at the school and district level. In order for our program to foster this type of community, we plan on holding meetings once a month to allow fathers to interact with each other and share their stories and experiences. The ultimate goal is to make father involvement a norm for our school. Then I end the whole memo with a brief summary. Overall, we hope that our program will provide positive role models for our children at our school. We know that our children can learn a lot from our Latino fathers and father figures, knowledge and experiences, and we find value in their presence at our schools. Beyond just mere presence, we know that their input in our school's goals are valuable. Lastly, we hope that our program will help inform how we involve fathers into our schools and children's educations. So as you can tell, my writing sample here showcases a lot of different skill sets. It shows that I can become a researcher, which obviously a PhD is a research degree. It shows my critical thinking skills, my innovation, because I provided some programmatic events that I came up with and that I drew from the literature and from the frameworks. It shows that I can utilize frameworks to support my claims as well as my programmatic events. It shows that I know how to state a problem and execute that problem. It shows the focus that I have on one topic, which you'll have to do as when you write your dissertation. So it shows a lot of things that are promising for me as a PhD student. So that's what you have to do when you're thinking about which writing sample you want to submit. It also shows my passion and my interest in higher education issues. So I want you, or actually in this one it was education issues because I did a middle school versus a higher education topic, but it showcases my passion for education. When I read that, you can tell that I was passionate about the topic and that the topic really interested me, and that I saw a genuine concern with this lack of Latino father involvement in middle school and education as a whole. So I want you to choose a piece that you are passionate about and that passion comes across in your writing. Alright guys, so that concludes my video on the writing sample that got me into a PhD program with full funding. I hope it was helpful for you to see an example of a writing sample. I am going to create a link tree and link it to my YouTube channel. That way you're able to see the sample, the full sample. You can read it on your own. But I'm also going to include the statement of purpose that got me into the program and the one that got me into the Harvard Graduate School of Education. So stay tuned to that link tree. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, share with a friend, and I will see you in the next video.